Inside the 18, I'm Michael Magid, live from Palm Desert, California, in my dad's guest room. With me, you know him as Pro GK Academy, is Omar Zeenni. No 99 World Cup winner Saskia Weber today, but that's okay because we have another superstar joining us, and that is Chicago Red Stars goalkeeper coach. And I'm going to try my best to pronounce it properly for everyone here. Rade Tanaskovic.
Oh, great. Yeah.
Did I get it right?
Yeah, that's close. No, that's close. That's
all
close.
All right, Rade, you got to tell me, how do you pronounce it properly? How do you?
Yeah, it has that like it's like Rade Tanaskovic. Yeah.
Rade Tanaskovic.
Yeah,
Okay.
there's a little R, but it's all good, man. Like I'm fine with anything that starts with R. It's fine. Like anything that's any close, I'll be fine with it. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Of course, man. Of course. Now we got Omar, who's got you in the background getting ready to strike some balls. It looks like on some pretty world-class keepers right there. So that's a solid bunker.
That was I think in Carolina opening game. I kind of fizzed a couple in the stands, so I was just asking for people to bring it back. So I remember that. I know that, but I exactly know where that picture is taken. Yeah.
Dude, isn't that the best? Like when you see pictures like up online or whatever, and everyone's like, oh, that's such a cool shot. And you're like, oh, I actually know what that shot is. And you don't really want to know the real story behind that shot.
Exactly. I fizzed a couple in the stands.
Well, first off, and dude, it's awesome to finally have you on. To give the audience a little bit of a background here, we actually met at the Baltimore convention, Omar, myself, and you at the convention. You came up to the booth and you actually said, hey, just want to let you know, really enjoy what you guys do. You guys are doing a great job with the show and stuff like that. And I'm like, oh, hey, man, that's awesome, man. Cool. Like, so it's like, are you like a goalkeeper parent or like a goalkeeper coach or whatever? And then people are like, dude, do you know who that is? And they're like, that's the Chicago Red Stars goalkeeper coach. And I'm like, wow. Well, do you want to come on the show? And you're like, no, that's not why I came up here at all. I just wanted to say that I like what you guys are doing. So that was a faux pas on my part. That was an embarrassing moment, but we appreciate the fact that you've continued to listen on to the show, even after that moment right there, man. And did you present at convention? You weren't presenting; you were just hanging out. Right?
No, I wasn't. Yeah, I was just like doing the draft stuff for Chicago and just trying to get out there, just look some people up and just watch some great. I mean, I think there's always good stuff out there. That doesn't have to be some great goalkeeping stuff this year. I mean, there's always. I mean, not just like a soccer stuff, but more like psychology stuff and just outside of just the moving the ball around. I think there's a lot of good stuff. And, I mean, keeping good connections and relationships, I think that's super important. And, I mean, just meeting people and getting to know people and sharing and carrying ideas, I think that's a big thing for me.
What's been really interesting, and Omar and I, we talked about this, is that we felt that this quarantine has been very similar to being at a 3-month convention, essentially, where every day we've just been meeting new people and getting new knowledge. Have you kind of felt that way?
No, 100%. I mean, for me, like, just to be honest, like, I mean, for me, like, this personally been huge. It's been a massive kind of like just a opportunity because I mean, we'll talk about this, but I have like a double job, like I work with the senior team and then I work with academy. And while I was in college as well, like, there's one thing is like college coaching. There's a lot of other things that go with the coaching. So like recruiting and stuff. And I feel like in the last, I don't know, I mean, just in 10 years, I've been my wife and I make fun of this, like kind of a little bit of time. Like this is the most time we ever spent together, and if you're in a small apartment, kind of cooped up, it's like, yeah, it's great to spend some time together, but we get a lot of time to kind of do our own things. And, I've really, really got a chance to, talk to a lot of coaches, a lot of friends, a lot of people, but, other things to learn and grow and get better. And for me, to be honest, the most important thing was kind of reflection, just reflection on the work and like, almost kind of like reflecting and then planning kind of going forward. And I feel like I've really, in the 10 years, I did not have a chance to do that. I really didn't have a chance to really, truly sit down and you reflect on a ride or like, you're driving somewhere and you're on a flight and you have some time and you're trying to, but I always felt like in the last 10 years I've been in a scramble, like just to get the stuff done. And this was the time where I was like, wow, like I actually, have a time to really reflect on some things, like break down a lot of film that I haven't broke down. So it been tremendous for me, and just for development of myself personally. I know it sounds selfish, but that's what part of this is. I mean, just getting better, right?
No,
Yeah.
I mean, absolutely. I mean, and one thing, I want to say is that we've really appreciated, the knowledge that we've been getting from different people. And when we learned that people like yourself are listening to the show, I mean, you've even left a review and stuff, man. I mean, and it's like when we hear things like that just that means a lot to us. By the way, speaking of reviews, shout out to Caleb Fitzgerald, who left an amazing review that said not only is Inside the 18 one of his favorite podcasts out there, but the Pro GK podcast is also one of his favorite podcasts out there. He said the two best podcasts out there in the world for goalkeeping are those two. So we wanted to give him a shout out before we get into this episode. Today's guys' topic is going to be utilizing statistics and recognizing tendencies. Honestly, this came from the conversation that we had yesterday with Joe Lowry from The Athletic and the MLS Assist podcast regarding metrics and regarding percentages and all that sort of thing. And we started recognizing that there's a lot of statistics that a lot of people have a lot of misinformation about and how important they are and all those sorts of things. So I thought when we have a pro goalkeeper coach like yourself, a world-class goalkeeper
I don't know about
coach on the show who works with the highest level goalkeepers, we really need to find out like what kind of tendencies they're looking for and what statistics are really important. So Omar, why don't you break down kind of like what raw statistics are for like, some of the parents who are listening right now who might not be familiar with what we're talking about.
Yeah, no, I think, when you have, for me, when I look up online, look up different statistics and, just obviously the most common ones are saves, clean sheets, probably the first two that you probably look at. And as the game has become a little bit more layered, and I think with goalkeepers now, we're a little bit more sophisticated with our statistics, analytics, we start to understand that there's a lot more that goes into it than just, the context of, or excuse me, just the clean sheets and the saves. There's more context to those. So I think when I actually look up on the EPL website, when I look up statistics, now they have a lot of stuff. They have clean sheets, goals conceded, saves, penalty saves. Oh, sorry, just got a phone call. Clean sheets, goals conceded, saves, penalty saved, punches, high claims, sweeper clearances, throwouts, and goal kicks. So they have a huge list of things now. And I think for me, at least, whenever I watch somebody, if somebody says, hey, I had, I broke the county or broke the state record in shutouts, then I go to each game and I say, okay, how many touches did you have in that game? So from then I can actually get to see, okay, was this an actual substance-based clean sheet, or was it something that you just, your team is just so great defensively? So for me, I think we've been a little bit more sophisticated now with analyzing these goalkeeper statistics and analyzing a goalkeeper's use of the term clean sheet.
Yeah, I love the fact that you brought up all those different statistics, which is overwhelming in my opinion. And it's a little bit crazy here because a lot of times it used to be people would just look at like goals against average, right? And we spoke about this yesterday on the podcast with Joe Lowry. He said, if you talk to people in the analytics world and the metrics world, the goals against average is the most misleading statistic when it comes to a goalkeeper's tendencies, how beneficial they are to their team, et cetera, et cetera. So Rade, can you elaborate a little bit on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's we talk a lot about in the office, like I mean, just kind of talking a lot how actually analytics actually grown in the last, and that's kind of really like been in the last 5-6 years. I mean, you're looking now there's stuff like Instat and Opta, and there's a lot of access that people can get really easy, and it's not that expensive anymore, right? So for me personally, and this is kind of where it starts and where it kind of ends, is like all about what is a context behind sure, the numbers are important 100%, but the raw number and just a number doesn't mean, to me personally, it does not mean much. But what is context behind the number? And then we'll talk about it, like, throwing up, I mean, what is the video behind the number? It's even getting to be more and more important. And now you're talking about analyzing your own goalkeeper, or analyzing the performance of your own goalkeeper, or scouting another goalkeeper to play against, or scouting the goalkeeper to bring in on the squad or something like that. So like there is, I think, approaches for all different they're kind of really similar, but they're, I think, really, really different, and they're, it's kind of, they're separate for their own.
Yeah. So Omar, how do you think, like for instance, like, I know you break down tons of tape. I mean, Rade probably breaks down more tape because, he literally, that's his job to do that. But one of the big things about your channel is that you always try to showcase different tendencies in different goalkeepers. And I think that is what I think Rade has been trying to get at, is that we need to understand like what those numbers mean in regards to the goalkeeper, in regards to the actual moments in the game that these statistics are referring to. I'll use like an example just from a field player standpoint. Like they say, like completed passes. It's so vague, right? It's so vague. So like, what are some of the tendencies that goalkeepers should kind of look at when they're looking at statistics and to see if they make sense?
Well, I'm going to step away from the statistics aspect for 1 second and just mention something that Chris Sharp, who's the goalkeeper coach of the Rapids, I asked him, what do you look for in film when you look for professional goalkeepers and then youth goalkeepers? Professional goalkeepers is like, yes, of course, ideally you want somebody who's going to, be a momentum shifter, somebody who's going to have the presence. And I think at that next level, most of them have those intangible qualities like we talked about in our last few episodes. So it's kind of already fine-tuned, and you're kind of looking for now the little things that make them different. So he's saying that there are times where, when the ball comes back and you come out, you come and collect it. And let's say they're playing a high line and pressing you. How do you get out of that? Like, what IQ are you showing on film that you shift all the way this way, you bring the entire defense or the offensive pressure to one side, you throw it back to the other side, and then you show underneath. That like is a tactical awareness and prowess of like, I understand what it means to move to one side and then start the ball on the opposite side. So I think when we watch film, it doesn't come out in the statistics, but when you see that, you go, whoa, okay, that person has the IQ to understand how to shift the momentum and how to shift things around to paint the picture that they want to paint. So I think that is something that goes kind of swept under the rug, unfortunately, when we talk about statistics and we talk about those, Mike, is like, they have rollouts or completed passes. It's like, okay, well, you got to pass back. You pushed everybody up, and then you decided to chip a ball into, someone in the corner where somebody with a lack of vision probably wouldn't have seen that. But how does that 60-yard ball that Ederson plays to Aguero over the top equal a Petr Cech pass, 5 yards? You know what I mean? So understanding the context of what.
Well, I know that Ederson. What it translates to is that Ederson plays getting 700,000 views, and that Petr Cech 5-yard ball is getting no views. It's getting one view. It's getting one. Petr Cech's mom watched that. So
no, but it's an interesting dynamic, and I think I've posted about it recently. A lot of the things that make these top goalkeepers great, you don't ever really get to see because on film, they don't ever make it to the YouTube clips and on highlights. From what I've heard, certain leagues, because they have rights with the television rights, they can only post 3.5 to 4 minute highlights. So they can't post any more or go any more in depth. So it's important for us as goalkeeper coaches to see that and go, okay, let me see if I can get access to the full game. And if I get access to the full game, let me look for little nuances in each goalkeeper's game that would really show these younger kids what it takes, aside from the statistics, aside from all that, what it takes to have the IQ and the mentality to play at that next level.
So let's strip it back and take it, like, let's take a game and let's take it even one step back and let's talk about training. How does like the stats and train, like in importance of taking the stats from the game, putting it in the training, kind of like taking the numbers from the game, putting it in a training environment and trying not just develop the goalkeepers, but like talking about team style of play. How do you train? How do you develop that stuff? So it is way, like you said, there's way more behind it than just a highlight on a TV.
Rade, quick question for you though. It's like, for example, you as a coach, you have certain non-negotiables as a coach, and you want certain things to be done a certain way. But if your team plays a certain system and they're playing an extremely high line, most likely you're going to try and, based on the statistics, play balls in behind and have your goalkeepers, make those decisions on balls over the top. It may not be, an ideal session that you always want to do because that's not what we've been kind of accustomed to as coaches. But with the trends of the game, the stats, and all that kind of coming into play, you're probably going to be like, okay, I'm going to put my stuff to the side and really get to the stuff that will get these goalkeepers ready.
And this is, I don't know. But for me, with the senior team, with the first team, entire week is based off of, yes, we do have a certain things that we need to check boxes and stuff, but entire week is based off of the opponent. So anything that we do starting Tuesday, You know, yes, maybe it might be just a functional slash technical slash functional session. That's how we operate. We do like a little bit more technical functional on Tuesdays, a little bit more shot stop and angle play on Wednesdays, then really, really dependable on what opponent does on Thursdays, and then kind of finishing off with Friday, whatever we need to kind of fit in. Usually there's some like a cutbacks and crosses on Thursdays, but like depends. I call it a wide play. It just depends but everything in every segment and every day, there is a little bit of the opponent analysis in it. So like, you know, even on a technical work. So like if I knew, for example, we saw on a scouting report that left winger comes inside and she shoots with the right foot for the, you know, like, and that's kind of 70% of their attack. And I don't know, there's 15% in the middle and 15% on the other side. All right, now I look at that a little bit more deeper. And then I might do even like in my sets and reps, so to say, I might do like, you know, 10 reps on one side and 6 reps on the other side. So really like, you know, yes, it balances out one way or the other, but at the end of the day, at the senior level, all what we care about. Yes, we do care about development. Yes, we do care about certain things, but we care about winning game on Sunday. And, you know, like we got to make sure that, and there is a days when there's nothing to do with the stats. There's nothing to do with the opponent. There's nothing to do with, you know, hey, it's more like, and it's always what a goalkeeper needs. And it's always in the communication with the goalkeeper. So, you know, I'm fortunate. You know, I mean, I'm really, really fortunate in Chicago that, you know, we do have experienced goalkeeper who, you know, knows herself really well, knows what she needs. And, but also there's one trick. I've been in the league. This is my second year in the league, right? She'd been in the league for 8 years, 6 years, 7 years, 8 years. She knows players way better than I do. And it will be ludicrous for me not to listen, like, you know, and, you know, like even if you have like somebody like Tobin Heath, like a goalkeeper, a listener knows Tobin Heath way better than I do. So like, you know, there is a nuances there that as a coach at this level, at this league, I have to look, like I call it like looking, listening, feeling it, you know, hey, what is it? My ego has to go aside. And, you know, and then there is a days when there is like, hey, this is what's going on. Look at this. For example, I don't know, their left winger is, you know, pressed on always a little bit higher. So if we try to transition in a counter attack, whenever you catch a cross, there is opportunity for you to spring out the right back or the right midfielder, and there is opportunity for you to put in the space. Let's incorporate. How can we incorporate that? Okay, no problem. On Thursday, you know, on Thursday we can put some crosses in, and I'm just going to put counter goal on the right side just for you to have. So when you feel like there's that, it has to relate to the game. So like if she catches the ball behind her head and it's on top of the crossbar, it's really difficult for her to get out and create a counterattack. But if she gets on top of the 10 or top of 11 and she catches the ball in a high speed and she can move it right away, that's the moment can we catch those moments, you know, and stuff like that. Just the small bits and pieces where, and like I said, there's a days where like there's nothing to do with the opponent, but there's just a little bit of video. Think about this, have this in mind, and create, again, taking this analysis and putting it into practice. I think there's different ways, so to say. I think there's ways to put it through training, there's ways to put it through video, and there's a way just to put it through conversation. So, you know, it just depends who you're working with and depends who you're dealing with. But that's a great point, Omar. I mean, I think that's exactly right.
I want to talk about this because I love the fact that you brought up in regards to from the scouting standpoint, because I think one of the things that I've always had a lot of issues with is how many goalkeeper coaches who work in like a college system or a professional system or whatever are, for lack of a better term, their sessions are not based on scouting reports. Their sessions are more based on what they feel their goalkeepers' tendencies are and what their goalkeepers are lacking or benefiting, yada, yada, yada. But they're not taking into account the opponent for that weekend in regards to, okay, so-and-so needs to work on this, but who we're playing this weekend and we need to get those 3 points, X is what we need to work on for that. So as much as I would love to work on this with you, that's something we should have done in the preseason, because we need to focus on this. Like, would you agree like that?
Yeah, I'm, and again, like I don't know enough like what other people do and how they work. I have only one issue that I face in on the day in and day out. It's really difficult for me to replicate high level players that we play against sometimes. So like if there is a right winger, like if there is a left winger that has a powerful left foot, my left foot is not good enough. So I have to figure it out. How can I bring a left-footed player that's really good with the left foot that can strike some left foot, like, or put the balls in the box, whatever that is. That's the hardest part that I have when it comes to that. I think it's especially, and whenever you come to senior level or I mean, I think even college level, there is we have to understand what is development time, and we have to understand what's preparation time. Preseason is there for development time, for preparing for what's coming. I think in the season we got to operate a little bit more towards the opponent. And I think there is at times to like say, hey, don't worry about that. We need to build a confidence in you. No problem. Let's strike 150 volleys into your hands. Make sure you're always in a good spot. So I think there's time and place for everything. It just, again, there has to be some kind of plan of the attack. I think there has to be some plan of the attack. In college is really difficult. I mean, talking about playing on, especially like I think the guys' game is slightly different, but in a girls' game you play on Wednesday or sorry, you play on Thursday or a Friday, and then you turn around and play on Sunday. So you have to be really careful. How do you balance preparation for both games, or like how do you prepare for okay, you prepare for Friday game, but how do you prepare for Sunday if you have just 1 day or 2 days and goalkeeper just played 90 minutes? So again, there is a little bit juggling, but I agree with you 100%, coach. I think it can be done. I think at the senior level, it's for us, it's all about Sunday. It's all about Sunday, and all what my boss and my owner and all what they care about is like, is it going to be a 3 points on Sunday?
Yeah, I mean that's a lot of pressure. I like it a lot more with myself. Or like that 9-year-old, I'm like, all I care about is like whether he learns how to handle that ball properly today. There's no owner looking behind my back going like, hey, did that kid catch the ball today? Is he cool with that? So
it happens.
I want to talk about this, and Omar, I want to throw this off to you, because you do watch all these goalkeepers from all over the world. What are the tendencies that you see the most that are things that kids should really look at and say, oh, you know what, these are things that pros do consistently over and over again, and this is what pro scouts see and go, this is why this person's a professional?
I mean, again, we talk about kind of like the broader picture is just kind of where the game is going and the trends of the game. And obviously, we know that distribution and guys like Ederson, Ter Stegen, Neuer, Allison, all those guys are almost being praised now because not that they were ahead of the curve, but somehow one of their coaches prior to them becoming as successful as they are now said, hey, look, this is what's going to be happening. This is the way the game is going. This is the way our system is going to be played. And this is where the statistics are leading us. So you have to be good with your feet. And, at the time, it probably had some pushback because it wasn't as big of an emphasis. But now, because I think Barcelona got so big in middle 2000s, everybody started saying every coach wanted to play like Guardiola and play like Barcelona and, obviously like Ajax and all that. So that became something that we really focused on. So I think the young kids nowadays, it's like, hey, there's a reason why. Don't just watch it for the fluff. Don't just watch it for the highlight. There's a reason, a rhyme and a reason why these guys have been successful and why their distribution was something that they worked on from a young age. So whether it's like, Rade said, like our coaches putting into sessions or goalkeepers taking that initiative and saying, look, based on the trends, based on what I need to have, distribution, I don't need to have side volleys. Side volleys are cool. Like Rade said, like when you have training sessions where we're realizing that the left back or midfielder may be cheating and there's an opportunity to counter, that is the proper context to use a side volley. But all these kids are looking at, again, Ederson is the main example for me, side volley, hitting these 60, 70-yard balls right on their foot. It took him years and years and years to accomplish that, preciseness and that, timing and trajectory and all that stuff. Don't just look at that. Understand, peel it back another layer and realize, okay, can I isolate that skill? Then once I've isolated it, can I turn it into the proper context and the proper decision-making? So young kids understand that the game is going a certain way with distribution, and that's probably where you really need to double down on. But once you have that distribution down, can you tell your goalkeeper coach to incentivize them, hey, I need extensive amount of pressure on this pass back. I can't just keep getting these pass backs and chipping balls into an unmarked player. I need to have someone pass me the ball, give them an incentive to come and, tackle me or attack me, force me to have a, cleaner prep touch, because in the game, I'm going to be forced to make this, great decision, great pass under pressure. So I think that's the number one thing I would say is find out what it is you need to really work on, which for us now is distribution, and try to keep it as game realistic as you can and really hone in and sharpen on that skill.
Yeah, I want to add on to that, because one of the things that really impressed myself and Omar when we went to the CONCACAF Olympic qualifiers, and we were just watching Alyssa warm up, and just the ability she had with both feet to play the ball with both feet. I mean, Omar, I think you even made a comment and you were like, she didn't skip a beat when she went to her weak foot.
I think while you guys keep talking, I'll put that video up. Keep going.
Okay.
I did, yeah, and I was impressed. And Rade, I'll be honest with you. Obviously, when Alyssa was chosen to be the next number one, obviously, when you have someone like Hope Solo, and I'm sure you've heard this 1,000 times, I'm sure she's getting tired of hearing people talk about it. But there's not speculation, but there's like some skepticism of like, okay, can she be the next goalkeeper that we need? Can she be the next Hope Solo? And really, Hope Solo had her own personality, and Alyssa got the job done in different ways. So you kind of have this, not a negative feel around her, but you're like, okay, I'm going to keep stacking her up to Hope Solo, keep stacking her up. And you get lost in understanding and respecting her qualities as a goalkeeper versus trying to check all these boxes. Oh, she does the same thing as Hope in this box. She does a little bit less in this one. So you kind of diminish her. But then when I actually watched her in the warm-up, oh my God, dude. Like, she's one, agile and athletic that I didn't think she had, but her hands are incredibly clean. Technique is incredibly clean. Right foot, left foot distribution. Like, she does all the little things right. And I think that was kind of lost in this whole situation of people trying to compare to Hope Solo. And I think, again, that's why Mike and I always implore is that when you have a chance to go watch a local USL team, a college team for that matter, male or female, go watch these goalkeepers warm up and just see how clean they are with their technique. There's kids out there who have incredible feet that are 19 years old playing as a freshman in college. And you can go watch that person who probably has, can chip balls in just like an Ederson or Neuer, but you can go watch them and see how they do it at that level. And then once you're able to see it, you're going to have a newfound respect for what they do and how they get the job done. So, I mean, if you want to talk about Alyssa real quick, I mean, is anything I'm saying far-fetched?
I will just like, again, I'm with you guys. You come in and you watch it. Like, a lot of people come in and watch a game, and come in and let's say, you show up, sit down, watch a game, take your popcorn, and then leave. You're at home and just kind of watch a game, and then as soon as it's done, you turn it off. I will start with this. I think it's incredibly difficult to be a U.S. women's national team goalkeeper. Saskia is not here, but she can probably. There is a lot of good goalkeepers out here. They're in this country, But everybody, Brandon Curry, Hope Solo. Whoever is out there, like they had such a qualities that they're all different, but they're incredible goalkeepers. So it's not fair. Like, I think all of them, I firmly believe there's no doubt in my mind that U.S. goalkeepers are the best in the world. Whoever the 3-4 U.S. goalkeepers are, I really believe that that's the strongest core of goalkeeping in the world on the women's side.
Yeah.
Nobody can convince me anything else. There's no doubt about that. That's number one.
I mean, and that's the craziest thing. Is like, obviously, we're a little biased because Saskia is a co-host with ourselves on the show, but she said, I mean, that you could argue, one day Bry and her, and then somebody else could be 1, 2, and 3 in the world.
100%
in the world.
100%. And that's I know, like, a lot of us are questioning like goalkeeping, but like women's goalkeeping on the women's side, I still think there's a lot of quality goalkeepers. They just here is the difficult part. In the last Since 1998, there is only three goalkeepers. Since 1997, there's three goalkeepers played for U.S. Women's National Team consistently: Brianna
Mm-hmm.
Scurry, Hope Solo, Alyssa Nair. Alyssa Nair, when she stepped on the field, like, like she had, like, I don't know, like very, very limited amount of caps. So those are the legacies of goalkeeping. Those are the long, and like on top of that, like as you're saying, coach, like there is 2 and 3 and a 4 that any time of the day can step in and get the job done just as good, or like, I mean, just like that. And that's incredibly important. So that's one. I'm sorry, I just want to kind of finish.
No,
like
no, no, no.
Number two, like we don't appreciate these goalkeepers enough because you don't see them enough. And I don't want to single out Alyssa. I will talk about goalkeepers in Chicago in particular, like amount of work they do, not just in practice but outside of practice, to stay like I'm truly privileged to be here. I'm truly privileged to work at the organization. I'm truly privileged to be part of the NWSL. I think it's a privilege. It's not the job for me. It's not a job. I don't wake up every morning and go to work. I really enjoy every single day there, and I'm really, really thankful to work there and to be part of it. But you don't appreciate enough until you're not part of it every single day. And and just the amount of work that those players put in, and the amount of work that every single player, not just the goalkeepers, put in. And then you see them day in and day out, and you're like, holy moly, you're actually getting better day in and day out. And I want to this is the last thing I'll say. There's nothing to do with Rade. There's nothing to do. It's all what they do. It's their own work, and they deserve it. And because they are like Emily Boyd. I have Emily Boyd, Cassie Miller, and Alyssa Nair on our team, and I mean 3 unbelievable goalkeepers. Like 2 young ones and one experienced goalkeeper. And I'm really, really thankful and truly, truly humbled to be part of it. They drive the environment. The culture is such a way where there's nothing to do with me. It's their culture, and they create it and they drive it. And so going back to what you said on a clean, like in order for Alyssa or Emily or whoever it is to hit quality pass or quality ball in the game, it takes, I think, times 20 or 30 amount of work outside of that to get. And I see it every single day. We have a passing progression throughout the week. And I remember leading to a World Cup. It was the coolest experience so far in my life. Was just in my coaching career, was just being part of the Alyssa's preparation for the World Cup, and the amount of work that she actually put in, just looking at from the outside in. I mean, there was the days when she would stay out there for an hour and a half extra, and just hit the balls with the left foot, hit the balls with the right foot, hit the ball. And until she doesn't feel the trajectory is perfect, until she doesn't feel like that ball from point A to point B gets just like an inch above everybody's heads, and it's in a perfect trajectory, in a perfect speed, in a perfect angle. So player not just thinking, oh, I'm just going to get it to the outside back, but get it to the outside back to the right foot, so player can continue going forward. Or if player is pressed, can I get it on their chest so they can keep it going sideways or backwards? It's unbelievable. It's just unbelievable amount of work. And going back to what you said, Omar, I think it's, you come in and you look at it and you're like, wow, this is unbelievable. And then you're part of it every day. And like I said, I'll wake up and I'm just really, really thankful to be part of it.
Well, I think Omar, speaking of that, I think in regards to the tendencies that you're talking about of these practice sessions and the distribution, I think Omar's got a video that he wanted to share, showcasing kind of to the audience what we've been discussing here. So do you have that ready to go?
And it's gonna like blare in my headphones, so I won't hear you guys, but you just watch.
Okay. Nothing's blaring. And that's the left foot.
Yep.
That's the left foot. Look at that. So the prep touch and then forward. But notice how even though she's got a big forward prep touch right there, she's moving with that prep touch so that it's not just because a lot of young goalkeepers will see that and they'll go, oh, she that was a bad touch on her part. She played the ball too far away from her. But watch her approach as she touches that ball. And see, and these are the things that people don't recognize. And then when we're talking about tendencies again, this is what we're discussing here. Is like these are the tendencies that pro scouts, pro coaches see, and they go, "That's why this person plays at that level." Rade, I want to ask you, what statistics do you guys really take into consideration when deciding whether a goalkeeper is right for you, whether it's at the collegiate level or the professional level, all of that?
Again, I said at the beginning, there's a lot of more context behind the numbers. We try to couple the numbers with the film. If we're just kind of looking like and that's just I think the surface layer. There's way below it in terms of like full games and in terms of like talking on the phone and in terms of finding out more about the goalkeepers, not just the physical state, but psychological state, what's way more important than almost anything else. So, but we look at, look at ability, like we get reports in such a way where we can look at, accuracy with the right foot, accuracy with the left foot. We can, the goals against, but there got to be a little bit more context behind that goals against. Maybe goalkeeper has a bad goals against the average or has great goals, but what kind of defense they have, what kind of back line they have in front of them, what kind of team they have in front of them. I know whenever I scout the goalkeepers, you can find that some goalkeepers are their passing percentages are really good. So like, let's say 87%, that's a really good passing percentage. But then what you can find
it's definitely not me. I'll tell you that. I am not 87%.
You can find is that actually their passing, short range passing is really, really high, and their long range passing is really, really low, but they actually hit really low amount of longer transitional balls. So that means that team high presses, ball over the top is collected by goalkeeper. By the time the that low block turns into a high press, it's really easy for goalkeeper to connect the first couple passes out in their short. So there is no really many longer passes. So like there is a lot more context behind just the numbers. But going back, right foot accuracy, left foot accuracy, save percentage. Usually we do get the stats of their kind of diving kind of stuff. Like is it a little bit more to the left? Is it a little bit more to the right in terms of where the goals are conceded? And like, is there some glaring kind of like, if there is 70 or 80% goals getting scored on the left side, why? And then going again, but you gotta keep asking this why. You gotta keep asking why is this, like if you look at the heat map of the goals that are conceded, if there's too many goals outside of the box, then we gotta look at why. If there is too many goals inside the 6-yard box, we gotta look at why. So like if there's too many goals inside the 6-yard box, that goalkeeper can control the area, and if his goals right on the edge of the box can goalkeeper shot stop, and so on and so forth. So there is a lot of things that we look at, but there's a little bit more of context behind it and why we look at it.
I want to talk about the heat map real quick, because that's something that's become really, really popular nowadays, is looking at the heat map. I mean, I think Omar can attest to this because he attends, I think, every webinar that's available on goalkeeping during the quarantine, and they bring up their heat maps in regards to their organizations and their clubs and their goalkeepers' tendencies and stuff. Omar, why, and is it that important? Is where the shots are being conceded and where the shots are being saved, is that extremely important in regards to developing the goalkeeper?
Yeah, I think obviously, like Rade said, like you have throughout the week, you have a certain plan, and obviously you have the teams you're playing against, but there's going to be certain days where you want to, have the session that you as a coach want to put on to give the goalkeepers the idea of, just it's a competition based, and like when you do game realistic stuff all the time, it's difficult because sometimes you're relying on people to finish and sometimes other people are, missing the frame. So sometimes you as a coach want to be the person to take that last shot. So we have certain days in the week where that's good. But then we talk about the heat maps and statistics. At Cal State LA, we were talking about, I think it was the MLS, and we're looking at the MLS, and 91% of goals were being scored from, I think, the PK or a little bit closer in the PK and in. That's where all the heat map was. Yeah. So we, as a coach, our team was like, okay, look, we want to do the game model, and our game model is play our wingers. Our wingers take it down the line, beat their guy, cross it in, and we used to call it the 91 exercise. So the 91 was we'd have guys start on the 18, play the ball wide, everyone times their runs, and now it's like the worst drill for the keeper, but the ones where they're just kind of like, cut backs and we're putting them in. But because that's mainly where the statistics were leading and the heat maps were, that's what we were working on. So then as a goalkeeper coach, I was like, okay, I mean, we don't have them for college. It's not that sophisticated, even worse at Division II. But now as Rade probably
you guys did have like pencils and paper and stuff though at Division II level, right?
We did, yeah. We were lucky to have mechanical pencils. So it was like, but no, it was like that, the idea of, right. we've all had to pay at some place, we start from the bottom.
Man, yeah. Rade didn't just start out at the Chicago Red Stars. I'll tell you that.
No way.
We could talk about that soon, but but long story short is that, like, as the goalkeeper coach, I think Phil Wedden said it, is when he sets up his sessions, he looks at, okay, what's the final picture that I'm trying to present? And from there, then I can take my steps back and essentially say, okay, where did this first ball come from? How did it get to the wide spot? And then now you're painting the picture for the goalkeeper. So now taking that same kind of formula and applying it in a new context, which is now the heat map, and understanding where the shots are being taken most likely by these teams, or even just on the league as a whole, then you start realizing, okay, how can I really influence my goalkeepers in the best way? Not so much from a technical or tactical standpoint, but mainly from, okay, this is where most of the shots come from. So how can I reverse engineer, okay, a shot from the angle from the right side is a heat map shows 50 out of 200 goals are coming from there. Okay, what kind of passes would lead to that final shot? Okay, perfect. Okay, it's a ball at the 18, they squared it, first time shot. Ball at the end line, they cut it back, that person took a touch, beat the defender, shot it. So now you're giving them different pictures of the exact same placement of the shot. So now the idea is hopefully the goalkeepers can gain a little bit more perspective and understand, okay, if I'm ever faced with that shot, I know how my primary footwork looks like and my secondary footwork looks like based off that touch.
Yeah, no, that I love what you're saying in regards to that, because I think the problem a lot of times that happens when coaches are looking at that heat map is they're looking at the negatives too. First off, is that they're looking at, okay, so these are where the shots are going in, and now they're going working from a position of fear of, like, we can't let our goalkeeper give up these shots because this is what's consistently scored on in our league, in our conference, yada yada yada, as opposed to looking at, okay, but look at our personal goalkeeper. Look at where they benefit. Look at where they're strong. And like Bobby Edwards from FC Cincinnati was talking about on Monday, is like, you have to recognize your goalkeeper's strengths, and you have to play to your goalkeeper's strengths. So, like, if you're recognizing something with one of your goalkeepers, Rade, that, like, okay, I'm okay with veering the team this direction. I'm okay with giving them these shots in these spaces. I'm okay with giving them a little bit more separation from this distance because I know my goalkeeper stops it at these angles, yada, yada, yada. Isn't that more important than where in the NWSL, players are, Tobin Heath is scoring her goals?
Yeah. I think it's a little bit of both, to be honest. Like if you have somebody like, like at the highest level, like, there is a player who it is a dangerous at a certain space all the time, and that is there for sure. But, like for us is more about, like, if there is, again, like you look at the goalkeeper and say, hey, like, our goalkeeper is really, really good, and this goalkeeper is really good in like, we gave up, I think, 1 goal last year, 2 goals outside of the box, and pretty confident then that, like, it's more about, like, hey, where do you establish the defensive line in the transition, for example? Like, where is that first person jumps up out of the line and kind of tries to block the shot, so to say. So those are some details. Or like, hey, if there is a player who plays on on the right side that's left-footed, can we actually push them out of the keep them wide and keep them going on their right foot, and especially get them to take a little bit more difficult shot from the angle that, you know, I'm pretty confident that goalkeeper can make a save. So those are small, I think, tactical approaches that everybody, like, I'm not saying everybody, but at the highest level, like, I do think people do to kind of take in consideration, you know, and yes, it is like Omar said, I mean, majority of the goals are coming between the 6 and the 12, you know, like in the kind of goal width, or a little bit left or a little bit right. So if a certain player or a certain team is doing something really, really specific, I think it's important to kind of talk about it and have that incorporated into the sessions.
I want to bring this up right now because I've found, and I don't know about you guys personally, I've found that a lot of times statistics can almost kind of be like foreshadowing how a goalkeeper is going to play. If you start sharing too many statistics with a goalkeeper, they start believing that's who they are as a goalkeeper. But what I mean by that is they start getting mental blocks and going like, well, my metrics say I can't do this, so I can't do this. You know, so how do we balance that fine line of keeping them informed, but also, and do we share their statistics? I mean, obviously at your level, it's impossible for them not to get their statistics because they're available to the public. But, you know, Omar, do you share your statistics with your college keepers, for instance?
I've been very fortunate with the college guys that I've had. They've had that like intrinsic love where they just, I mean, the goalkeeper that I had loved looking up his own statistics and just loved seeing, maybe for the wrong reasons, you know, his clean sheets, how many he had, because he broke the record twice. He had the most clean sheets in the country 2 times in a row. So he was always like, coach, if I get a shutout here, like he's almost budgeting shutouts based off of who our opponents are. And that's again can lead to the mental block of like, you forget about all the little things you have to do right throughout a game to get that shutout, and now you're only thinking about the shutout. So you have that mental block, and it doesn't allow you to play off instinct, but more of a fear of not conceding a goal. So I think that is like the biggest thing that we need to understand is, I'm sure Rade understands, is as a coach, and we've discussed this, Mike, every coach can have, you know, the same, let's say across the country, each coach can run the exact same session every single day for the entire year. But based on the coach's personality, that is what really separates each coach, and what really personality meaning like, are they willing to educate themselves because of that education? Are they able to say things in a certain way? Do they understand the player psychology? Do they understand their own players' own psychology? And once you're able to understand that, like maybe Alyssa is the kind of goalkeeper who loves that transparency and wants to know all the statistics and wants to know where she's getting scored on. Okay, hey Alyssa, the last few games on a 1v1, you turned into a block save too early. They just chipped it over your head, or you turn into a block save, you defaulted, and they literally just tapped it one step to the left, one step to the right. Maybe because teams are noticing your default, they're saying, hey, if you're ever in a situation where she comes out, let her drop into her knee, and then she's going to give you opportunity to slide it right or left. By showing her those statistics and by showing her those kind of conversations and transparency, now she's happy that you told her, and now she steps into it going, okay, maybe I stay on my feet from this point forward. She gets a little bit of success, and then she gets that momentum into the game. So I think it's like all has to do with the coach, how their personality is, what their, I guess, EQ, emotional intelligence is, and how can they convey that message without, I guess, losing the proper messaging. Like we want to give them the right statistics and the right information, but without, I guess, putting too much pressure on them.
So can we like Rade, can we overdo it with statistics in regards
Absolutely.
to?
Absolutely. 100%. 100%. And I think that's that, you know, again, I'm going back to kind of looking, listening, and feeling a little bit what this particular goalkeeper needs in particular time. Even with the scouting reports, even with the opponent, there is a time and place, like I said, that, you know, we have a lot of conversation, and there is a time and place. And I mean, I worked with different kind of goalkeepers. There's a goalkeeper A that loves the stats, loves the scouting reports, loves the video, wants all the maximum, as much as input as possible. And there's a goalkeeper B that is just like, hey, I just want to get out there and play. I just want to get out there and just, you know, just do what I do the best. And, you know, and even like, I mean, talking about, you know, sometimes talking about youth teams, even like, we got like, there is a players who look at the stats, as you said, and they look at the numbers and say, wow, my passing was just terrible today. And that brings them back down. But I think we got to educate the goalkeepers what those, like, think about this. Think about external factors sometimes. So external factors sometimes can be like wind, can be a field conditions, can be let's say you're 1-0 up and it's 80th minute and other team is pressing you high, and yes, there's teams who are still going to play out the back, but if you need to win that game to move on into some tournament or something, I mean, I'm sure that at that point nobody will not care about passing percentage, and nobody will not care about like, hey, we got to get the job done here. We got to get the job done. And I think, yes, I think that's part of development too. I think that's part of development when you have to understand where are the next open spaces. If team is pressed and it's 1-0, you're 1-0 up, is there space in behind them so you can play fast and create another opportunity and stuff like that. So like, I think we got to educate the goalkeepers and I think as far as kind of in my philosophy, my philosophy is really, really goalkeeper centered. So for me, it's all about the goalkeeper. It's all about what goalkeeper needs. It's all about what goalkeeper needs in particular time, but it's also educating a goalkeeper to kind of rationalize things by themselves, analyze things by themselves, and being like not just self-aware, but aware of their performance as well. I'll tell you a quick story. Like back home, when I played back home, and there was
hold on. Emily Boyd has been telling us about these stories.
No, don't worry about her. She's fine. Like there was not that many stats. There was not really social media that heavy. Only thing that you cared on Sunday or Monday morning is when you open up the paper, there was grades from 5 till 10. 5 was like you were terrible, and 10 like there was really, really rare 10. And like you open the newspaper and you find a page with like you find a column with your game, and that's how you got judged. That's how everybody judged you by. And that, to be honest, that left really, really negative side of the game. Like that left a really negative experience on my game. And I talked about this a couple of times, different places, but psychologically I wasn't strong enough, and ultimately that's why I didn't make it as a pro, is because psychologically I wasn't strong enough to overcome some failures that I had. And like for me, like opening up that pressure was just too big. So trying to teach and educate a goalkeeper how to deal with those pressures and how to deal with those numbers and stats, I think it's in how to deal. I mean, can you imagine dealing with the World Cup goalkeeper and during the World Cup, and we're entire, like, can you imagine Oliver Kahn dropping that ball, how he felt in that moment and how that affected
him. I don't know how he felt when Omar decided to bring it back, 2 weeks ago on the podcast.
But like, I think there is way more that we can take and just take out of the numbers. And yes, our numbers important, absolutely, but I think there's way bigger opportunity there to teach and learn and educate. Like I think that's a massive for me. Just kind of trying to educate goalkeepers what the numbers mean, what the numbers are, and how everything affects them.
But I think
go ahead, Omar.
No, I think just to add on to that point, what he just said is it needs to be put on a billboard. It needs to be put on like first week of coaches webinar, coaches everything, because a lot of young coaches nowadays will hear, oh, Rade, professional goalkeeper coach uses statistics, great, and then they use that I guess as a benchmark to go, if I want to be a coach at the next level, I need to do this, right? They use it and they don't know the context or understanding of why you're using it. So the fact that you just said right there, it's like you're almost using it as an educational platform to show the goalkeepers, like there's actual backing as to why I'm having you do this. And same idea when we talk about, when we want to have game realistic sessions, we're having those conversations to show the goalkeepers, hey, this is what, and through the film, in the games, opponents, and even games that you've played, these are instances where you have kind of, you've been slow to get down to either right or left side, or even on 1v1s, you've gone down too early. Let me show you so that we can actually go out there. And now that you have some mental recall of what you look like, can we keep our posture more up so 100%. That it looks a little bit better?
100%.
So it's that understanding of, yes, the video, the statistics, all that is great. But if it's used in the wrong context and you don't know how to assemble the right, I guess, messaging, and you can't convey it to your goalkeepers, it's going to be a lost cause. And I think, Mike, to your point, there can be a mental block, and there can be a lot of bad things that can kind of become side effects of this whole thing. And I think, again, being organized as a coach and understanding your messaging and who you're speaking to and how to properly convey a message to that person, that's a skill within itself. And that's why Rade is at his level. And there are certain coaches who are at their level because they need that experience to have those tough conversations where a goalkeeper doesn't agree with you and you're not going to run away from it, but you're also like, look, we can agree to disagree, but I'm going to show you the statistics and I'm going to show you the video. And this is why I'm standing firm on this. And I think it was Ian Foyer who I was talking to, who was a goalkeeper coach for the, obviously for the Galaxy for a long time, but for the U.S. national team. And he said within his first few sessions with Tim Howard, he realized that Tim Howard gained a lot. He gained Tim Howard's respect because he was willing to coach him. He wasn't willing to come in and just say, you're Tim Howard, you're a legend, I'm going to let you do you. He came in and he was willing to coach him, and Tim Howard respected that. So I think coaches all around the world, and young coaches, older coaches, that respect level is earned, but you have to be willing to be organized enough to have those statistics or game realistic videos to show why your session makes sense to the goalkeepers.
By the way, I want to say one thing real quick is that, Omar, when you said, that's why, Rade, you're at the level that you're at, literally the negative context in my head that immediately went was going to go, Omar goes like, and Michael, that's why you're at the level that you're at.
I'm not Saskia. Saskia always she always gives you those comments.
Hold on. But speaking of Saskia, that's something I want to talk about. I want to talk about sample size, because she was in a very difficult situation. She was on arguably one of the best teams ever. In regards to that late 90s, U.S. women's national team. And there was only so much time that was available on that team. So statistics wise doesn't represent what that goalkeeper is capable of doing for you, because there's not a big enough sample size. So Rade, how do you help? Like if you're out there right now, if you're a goalkeeper coach out there listening to yourself, how do you help them understand that? And what kind of a sample size do you actually need in order to be able to utilize statistics, to utilize metrics?
Oh, I mean, I think that's I think in a youth game, here's something that I've done, and just to create our own, like, a club curriculum. So like it's we use analytics in creating our club curriculum and how we coach the kids from starting from U10 and going up to U19s, U18s in our platform here in Eclipse in Chicago. And this is a really, really it is a really, really difficult process. You only need the pen and paper, and you need the mom and dad to take a couple notes here and there, but pretty simple. Like, I think it's such a simple process, but it takes a long time in order for us. So like what we did was, I got a meeting together and tried to get each parent to get, not each parent, but like each goalkeeper's parent. If I'm not there, or if one of our goalkeeper staff is not there to be able to take a stats, like they took a stats for us pretty much. Like every action, every time when the kid touched the ball, we wanted to know, is that a cross? Is that a wide play? Is that a shot stopping? Is that a ball through? Or is it distribution? So we based our curriculum on those four pieces of the goalkeeping. So 4 actions. Now, if I'm there, I can kind of break it down even a little bit more. But for parent, that was all that kind of like I could really, it was kind of simple to explain, right?
Yeah.
And it took us a year long. That was a year-long process. Like a bunch of goalkeepers, a bunch of data like that. If I had a video, I did it in my own. But if I didn't, I had to rely on the parents, and that's how we created our entire curriculum for the club. So in the U10, there's Johnny, who is really fast up top. Everybody gives the ball to Johnny. Johnny dribbles down the field, or they push it through the hole for Johnny, and there's a lot of breakaways. In U19, there's a lot of crosses. There's fast winger who gets on the flank, serves the ball in a box, So that's how we didn't use this like a super analysis, so to say, or nothing, but we use a really, really simple analytics to create the curriculum for a club. It took us a year. It took us an entire year in order to get those pieces in place. So now we can understand what U12 goalkeeper needs. We can understand what U14 goalkeeper needs. We can understand what U16 goalkeeper needs. We can understand what U19 goalkeeper needs. And that's how we based their training session around.
Yeah.
At the senior level, I think, it's a little bit different for us in Chicago, but like, let's take a US, like a national teams, like international level, right? They have like analytics department, you know what I'm saying, who takes so much, like they do so much work off of video and sending people to watch the games and scouting in the person and just like over the video stuff as well. So they have enormous amount of data. They're able to kind of bring it in and say, hey, this is what it is. For us personally, for Chicago, for example, for one game, I usually break down 5 previous games. So like really look at every shot, every play, look at every like every corner, every like, everything that involves goalkeeper in and out of the possession and in transitions as well. So I can create the best possible so to say scouting report, right? And then I know this fact. U.S. women's national team scouting scouting report for Sweden game was 167 pages long.
Wait, what?
Yeah. So U.S. women's national team report for scouting report for Sweden was 167 pages long. That's presented to the staff from analytics department. And what was presented to, and I think the Omar mentioned this earlier, I think what makes it the best coach, the best manager, what makes the coaches understanding what is a team, is a goalkeeper, is a team or individual, it doesn't really matter, but what does it need to be given to the players, or what does it need to be said, what does it need to be shown, what does it need to be like. I don't need to be here like showing all the stuff out there that I found.
Oh, I really wish you had taken all 167 pages and just been like, hey guys, we're going to go through all of this now. Like,
but in order, like, I do think the best coaches out there are really well prepared. I think they're really well organized, and they understand what does it need to be done off the field and what does it need to be done on the field to best prepare, person to perform.
Yeah.
So, and alongside with all the other things that come in and play.
Yeah. It was funny because the thing is that like I was impressed with myself that I would watch 10 minutes of Y Scout footage, and now I hear 167 page analytics paper, and I'm like, oh man, I am not doing my job for this podcast at all. I need to really step it up. Omar, you're up to 167 pages each breakdown you do, right?
I do a lot, yeah, but I think I'm more video than reading. Yeah. But I just want to add to Rade's point right there. I think one question that I asked Tim Dittmer, who is with the FA, I asked him, when it comes to technique versus tactics, at what age do you start going tactics outweigh the technique? And he said, well, why can't you just do both? Why can't you teach the game, but let the game be the teacher as well? So when you put them in game realistic situations, you'll start seeing which techniques they'll actually use. And then once you see the techniques they're using, then you can start modifying that technique. So I think one thing that I've kind of listening to Rade and kind of understanding, there is the statistics, there's all of that stuff. But when we, let's say, get them ready for the week and the weekend games, there's going to be certain instances and, technical flaws that are exposed throughout those sessions. And then again, it's you as the coach to have those honest conversations and say, look, or even not have those conversations because you go, hey, I know she may be a little bit, not weak in the mind, but if I'm critical, she doesn't need me as someone to be a critique. She needs me to be someone of support. So instead of messaging like, hey, we need to work on that low ball right, it's more of like, look, I understand that may be an issue. We can work on that after training. So what I'm saying? You're kind of getting the same message across, but without being like, hey, that could cost us a goal in the game. You have to fix it versus, hey, I'm going to help you out. Let's try and, double down on this. So I think that's the important part for the coaches that are listening. The statistics are important. All of that is important,
100%.
but you need to understand with all the session planning, there's going to be times where a lack of technique or the wrong technique is being used and it'll be exposed. And then it's your job from there to either get the footage or have those honest conversations to not let it affect their weekend goals, but at the same time too, let's actually continue to build and get better. So we're not just trying to get those results.
I want to talk about this though, because Nathan Thackeray, who's a friend of the show, and he was on a few months back at convention actually in Baltimore when we first met Rade, and he was talking about the demands at the different age groups, the demands of the game.
Yeah.
And I love the fact that you guys used statistics to recognize tendencies to determine what the demands are of each age group, because I honestly think, Rade, and I don't know how Eclipse feels about that, but like if you can share that with the goalkeeping community, it would help so many youth goalkeeper coaches out there who are flying blind. And I don't mean that they're not putting the work in.
I think there's just some some small logical things to look at when it comes to youth coaching, like youth goalkeeping, and again, I think about this whenever kids go from small field to the big field, they don't have a length strength to hit a long ball. They don't have a length strength to hit this long cross, like far crosses and stuff. Like there is a little bit more dribbling. There is a little bit more kind of shorter range shot stopping. And then suddenly you see this. And again, I'll talk a little bit more about girls game right now. Like in a girls game, like boys are developing just a slightly earlier. So there is a little bit different, but in a girls game, like what I see in, like, for example, ECNL or Development Academy, like there is styles of play that each club kind of plays. But suddenly in that age of 16, 17, when there are some differences in the speed and the size, like there's wingers and outside backs are becoming way more important. And playing through the middle and getting ball out wide and getting it served in a box, that's kind of the trend of the game. So like the goalkeepers are seeing more crosses, they're seeing a little bit more wide play situations, and we have to be aware of that. You see when for example, it's kind of interesting that whenever they transition, like kids transition from the small sided field from 99 to 11-11, you see significantly less back passes to the goalkeepers, because suddenly field became way bigger, and for them to get the ball from one side of the field to the other side of the field, like it becomes ball kind of gets trapped on one side of the field. Field is suddenly big to cover and stuff like that. So there is some really interesting things that we found that really benefited us in our curriculum and how we structure the age groups top to bottom, and how we stretch and like there is this, we do train the goalkeepers based on the age, but we really truly train them where they are in their development. So if there is a U13 or U14 goalkeeper that can be bumped up and they can train with the 16s or 17s, we always do it as much as possible.
And then obviously then they have, because they're playing with the 15s and 16s, their sessions are catered towards the demands of the age group that they're now training with.
100%. Yes. So, and then they're stretching themselves as well,
I absolutely love that. And I'm like, I honestly, like I said, if there's a way, and I know like this is a conversation that we've all had for a long time in regards to the federation and goalkeeping education, and we can just kind of leave it at that right now. But I think if there was something like that where somebody like the federation could put out a template, it would make the job a lot easier for a lot of people.
Hopefully it's coming up.
Yeah. Hopefully it's coming up. All right, let's talk about this. And Omar, I want to bring this up with you because, you were obviously in the recruiting side when you were a college coach. And now because you're not in the recruiting side, you can speak openly, on this topic. What are deal breakers, tendencies that are deal breakers to you?
Oh, man. I think there's a lot, but I can only speak from my own experience. And for me, at least, it's like I felt like I played the game a certain way, and I felt like the way that I played it, there was some savviness to it. There was a little bit of IQ. There was a little bit of like something that really presented my personality on the field. So I just feel like when I recruit goalkeepers, I'm not looking for a cookie cutter. I'm not looking for just like the guy who just gets the job done. That's not me. I'm looking for somebody who can get the job done, and then on top of that, has their own savviness and own personality that allows me to at least feel comfortable knowing that they can come out and have an amazing performance. The foundation is there where they can keep a clean sheet, manage the game. But if we need them to stand on their head and they have that, like we talk about, those outstanding qualities that allow you to, you know, for a shorter goalkeeper to make it like a, I mean, we talk about Jorge Campos all the time. We talk about Conejo Perez, like all the Mexican goalkeepers that I know who are a little bit undersized. They had incredible feet, incredible bounce, and like they made incredible saves. So it made up for that lack of height. So for me, if you don't fit all the, I guess, check off all the boxes for height, for speed, all that stuff, but you have a savviness to you that eliminates and it doesn't allow those, you know, those deficiencies to be exposed. That is what I look for. So there's no like checking of boxes or anything for me. It's more of a feel. And when I watch you play, then I want you to come train. And then if I train you and you have that same kind of bravado, that same, you know, kind of thing that I liked, then we, you know, advance negotiations a little further. And that's, for me, that's what I look for. So there are some non-negotiables. If you're very cookie cutter and like don't really have any swagger to you, that's not my style. I don't really like that. But again, it to each their own.
I mean, look, but there's some great world-class goalkeepers who do not have quote-unquote swagger to them. So I think I guess what you're saying is it's kind of a personal choice in regards to.
It is. I mean, you look at, I mean, for me, Ter Stegen, I mean, that guy is just, I mean, you can say in terms of like his technique, it's just so like if you were to draw someone up in a lab, he has literally, I mean, the hair, the body, the perfect height. Like he has everything you need in terms of what you would think of as a goalkeeper. But then you look at the way he gets the ball with his feet, the way Barcelona almost plays because how good he is with his feet. If you don't know, I think it was Real Madrid. They played against Real Madrid or some team recently, and they literally had guys on the side of the midline, and he was chipping balls into them, and then Suarez was running off of that. So that swagger to me is like he's so damn good with his feet that Barcelona have decided, you know what? Why don't we just take advantage of how good he is with his feet and like to play around that? So to me, it's like he is like to a certain extent like a cookie cutter guy, but he has those like outstanding qualities that make you go, whoa, that's swagger to me. That's what I love.
Okay, so what you mean by swagger is more in regards to how you play as opposed to your presence and how you're, you know, because there's
how you play.
Okay.
It's savviness, like we're talking about with Chris Sharp when he was saying, like for me when I used to play, there were times where, I mean, I remember we played in Dallas Cup, we lost in the final, but in this final game, it was a 2v1 situation, and in my head, I already knew like, okay, I'm just going to show him that I'm at the near post, but I know he's probably going to pass it because sure I felt it. So I showed it to him, but my feet my body were already squared up to run to that the next guy. So I literally was there, and then I ran across, and I dove to hit my fingertips. He shot it, hit my fingertips, and it went out. People were like, that was an amazing save. But to me, it was like I knew it was going there, and I was already cheating. So like that's what I mean by like the swagger to understand that there's like layers to the game, and can you think of all the potential possibilities and be able to put out different fires without those things even potentially not even occurring.
Yeah, you know, I'm looking for a goalkeeper who's got the type of swagger like you know, Rade Tanaskovic, where you can do the Danish catch and have complete confidence when you do it.
Oh,
I've heard you pulled that out at sessions before, and people go like, "Whoa!"
That's it's really interesting Danish catch. Yeah, I mean, like it's kind of interesting. Who was that? Smihel kind of showed up on a somewhere, right, and then Oysted showed up somewhere. There was a Danish goalkeeper, David Oysted, in Chicago with Chicago Fire. I mean,
oh yeah, David Oysted,
yeah, and he done a great. I mean, he's like it was awesome to see them all train, and you know, and back home we done Danish catch, kind of like we called it a wiper, but like it was just the different things, right, that people do that really kind of stand out and catch your eye, right?
Well, but that's a tendency right there. You know, that you recognize that in a goalkeeper, and so I think that's something that we also need to take into consideration when we're talking about tendencies with goalkeepers. Is it really a negative? Is it really a positive, or is it just how they play the game? And if it's something that it's how they play the game, are we comfortable? Do we need to change it? Or do we need to adjust because it works for them and they're comfortable with it. You know, I think that's a big issue a lot of times in identification and scouting is a lot of coaches, they go, well, that's now how I would do it. So they immediately dismiss a goalkeeper. And I'll be straight up honest. I've been a culprit of that in the past. That's not how I would do it. So I'm not rating that guy, or that's not who I, I won't take that guy. In reality, it was working. Yeah.
No,
go.
but the number one thing is peace of mind. And as a coach, as a goalkeeper coach, that is essentially that's what I'm saying. Like, I like the swagger, but if your swagger is leading to you doing stupid stuff on the top of the 18, or you're doing side volleys out of bounds, like, to me, that you have to have awareness, and the decision making has to be influenced by that awareness. If you're a good goalkeeper all around, but your lack of awareness is screwing the team, there's no way that I'm going to recruit you. So I love certain things, but if you're not able to actually use that skill set at the right time, at the right place, then for me, it's a no-go. So I know what you're talking about, but like, even the Danish catch, a goalkeeper that I had, he did the Danish catch. And at the beginning I said, what is that? And then he was effective with it. So I said, dude, do you, if you can catch the ball as well, or even better than goalkeepers that are using the W, then so be it. You're
saying the goalkeeper has to prove it to you that it's going to work. Is what you're saying.
They need to show you that a certain technique that they're choosing is better. That's what we talk about with statistics and the video. It's like, if I come to you and say you have to change, and they go, no, this is me. But I'm like, look, I'm going to show you footage of you dropping your both knees on a scoop, and you're getting stuck and rooted to the ground, and you can't adjust. Yes, it's happening. It's maybe you're catching it cleanly because it's going clean through traffic. But what happens if it takes a slight adjustment or slight variance? You're screwed. And they go, oh my God, I never thought about it like that. But because you came with them with actual concrete evidence and some substance to your words, then they go, oh wow, maybe my mind was so fixated on one thing. I'm not gonna, I'm gonna take this advice now in stride. Versus like, hey, you have to change, and that's it. So as a coach, it's another skill set. Can you be organized enough to take the time to maybe not say something in the moment, but can you go back and say, okay, I'm gonna let this ride for maybe a week or two, film everything so that I can create not a database, but like an actual case, so that when you present it to them, you're like a
lawyer, dude. The way you're investigating the case before you present it to trial. Like,
you almost have to. The thing is, I had a goalkeeper recently, big guy, and he was so like, no, coach, there's no way I'm doing the arm swing. There's no way I'm jumping wide. And I'm like, dude, I'm okay with you doing the arm swing and the wide stuff, but you're doing it so close to when I strike the ball. Like today we had a session, and I was like winding up extremely, extremely hard for some of the shots, and his energy was almost matching my wind up. But I was like, can you not, like, if I'm taking a big swing, doesn't mean you have to swing your arms as well. How about you take that and harness that energy instead of letting it be released by the arm swing and the jump? Keep it super compact, and let's see if maybe, because you're so damn tall, that you can attack from a compact shape versus being so spread out because you're jumping and reacting to my, my big swing. And let's see how that works. He tried it, and then we talked about it, and he said, whoa, like I felt really good about that. And then I showed him the footage, and he's like, yeah, you're right. So it's like the conversations are great, but when you can back it up with even more footage, that is where the trust is built. And now, at least as a coach, for me, when I rewatch the footage, I go, damn, I should trust my eye more often because I'm seeing and I'm feeling what I'm seeing.
So, Rade, is that kind of like what we were talking about with sample size, where like you need a certain amount of time to evaluate a goalkeeper before you can actually, for lack of a better term, change them or adjust them?
Yeah. For me, the word is effective. To be honest, there's, like Omar mentioned, there are some, like, and again, dependable on the level. Like when I was in college, dependable what you're looking for. Like, do you looking for, what are you looking for? What do you need? Like, I mean, now with the senior team is like, do you need a younger goalkeeper that you're going to try to develop and grow, and that goalkeeper or do you need a goalkeeper to play right away? And, like, what do you, like, all of us talk about this, all of us talk about this competition and all of us, but it's in the real world is not that way all the time. It doesn't work that way. Yes, there is sometimes position is open and it's for grabs, but a lot of times it's not that way, and that's just normal, and they're just part of it. But for me, it's all about what you need. What do you particularly need in a doesn't matter if it's next goalkeeper or whatever that is, and next thing is effectiveness. To be honest, personally, all what I care about is 3 points on Sunday with the senior team. That's That's my boss cares about. That's why my owner cares about. There's 3 points on the line on Sunday. Now,
So if Alyssa went out there and like, you know, and I'm just utilizing Alyssa because she was your number one last season.
sure.
You know, I'm not speculating or anything like that.
Yeah.
Is that if she went out there and she started doing somersaults,
Okay, now
you know, and handstands.
That's a different thing.
Okay.
But like if it starts hurting us, you know, we cannot let. And now we are going back to everything that I mean, a lot of things that Omar said it, like in terms of like video analysis and what is there that we can work on, and what are the, going back to utilizing the strengths a little bit. Like if our goalkeeper is really good in crosses, it's really good in the air, can we get him off the line as much as possible? Can we get him in advanced position so they can prevent rather than can they prevent the scoring opportunity rather than shot stop the scoring opportunity? If they're better in a shot stop, and they can stay on the line more, and they can shot stop more, you know, like if our goalkeeper is really good with our feet, and don't get me wrong, now there are layers of the goalkeepers, even in the professional game and even in the college game, you know, this goalkeeper can do this and that, like whatever. There are some non-negotiables. You got to be able to play with both feet. You have to be able to catch the ball. You have to be able to catch the cross. You have to be able to shot stop. And now, what are your super strengths, so to say, so we can use that and utilize that to build around it? And what are some things that we need to improve? And now, when is the time to improve? And when is the time for that true development? Like, and where is the time for me personally, like in a senior level environment, like our number 2, number 3, number 4 goalkeepers, if we have them, like they have a time to develop every single day, because they don't have to worry. Yes, number 2 maybe has to worry about Sunday a little bit. Just got to stay sharp, got to stay ready. But other than that, this is a great time for you to keep developing. There is a little bit more load that we can put on you physically. So we don't have to worry about your 45 minutes of goalkeeping and 35 minutes of training session. And now you're kind of worried, are you tired for Sunday? You can be tired on Sunday and still be okay. So, you know, there are some things, but again, like what are some things that effectiveness is a word for me. Can you get the job done effectively? And now with the youth and with the college, for me, it's a little bit different, just because, you know, like you can mold them and you can shape them a little bit more. College is tough. It's a really, really tough environment, because you get them for a certain period of time in a really, really interesting age of that 17, 18, 19, where they're already kind of formed goalkeepers. And is like, again, what is there that, where is the cup filled up until to, so you can kind of get in a little bit more inside it. I think there's always space for development. There's always space for development. And I think goalkeepers can always get better. What is that? It just depends, you know?
Yeah. Before we go, guys, and I know we've gone for about an hour and a half right now, but I appreciate you guys taking all this time, because I think this is a really important conversation out there. And I think there's a lot of goalkeeper coaches out there who can really benefit from a lot of the experience that, you know, we're all sharing with them in regards to the advice and information. I want to talk about recovery statistics, because you just brought up the college season, and a lot of the people that listen to our show either work in the youth game or in the college game, just from a simple number standpoint. There's just more people coaching in college and in the youth game. Omar, I know that this has become a really popular statistic lately, is recovery percentage, is how long it takes a goalkeeper to recover, how long it takes a field player to recover from a match, how long during training sessions. A lot of goalkeeper coaches have now been taking the percentages of how many reps a goalkeeper can take before they can handle another rep before the technique breaks down. You know, kind of what are your thoughts on that? Or is there any advice that you give out to goalkeeper coaches who've been listening to a lot of this information?
By the way, my microphone just like shut off for some reason. So can you still hear me though?
Yeah, we can still hear you. Yeah.
Okay, so it won't be as clear. So, but yeah, no, I think again, it's good to looking for is like, you need to obviously educate yourself and understand the sports science stuff, but also too, if you have a sports science team, or you have a trainer, or you have somebody who's the strength trainer, I think every school more or less has that, having the conversation and putting yourself in more well-equipped positions as a coach to understand the heat maps again off the field in terms of their recovery, and understanding what each goalkeeper would need to make sure that they're primed and ready. Because again, we had 4 games in 9 days in college last year.
4 games in 9 days.
It was insane. So I had to have those honest conversations with my goalkeeper. And I said, look, I know you're a worker, and I know you want to work extremely hard today. And I know you didn't get that much action yesterday, but for the betterment of you and to kind of like keep you safe from yourself, we're going to hold you out today, because we need you to go either, you can do a lot of stuff off the field as well, but like taking a beating on the ground and your body hitting the ground is definitely, it hurts. And it does weigh on your mind. But that's why the gym is so important. Can we still get that same like kind of sweat going and still feel like we got a workout in, but off the field, and still keep the meter underneath that bar, the needle underneath the bar a little bit, but also to like lift your stretching routine, your strengthening of your core. Like we can still work on other things. So while one threshold is about to be met, we can always kind of work on a different threshold and slowly build this one up, and then try to even them out towards the end of the season, where you need that base and that foundation of strength and conditioning to level out with your play, so that your mindset is like, for me at least, my psychology by the end of the season was like, oh my God, I'm exhausted. My warm-ups, I was exhausted because I was out of shape. That was out of shape, but my body was beat up and I hit my plateau. And when you hit your plateau and I didn't know what it meant at that time, but my physical capabilities and like my fitness is plateauing, it weighs on your mental and it weighs on you psychologically. And then again, in turn, affects your game. So can we try and meet one area and then keep this area and then level them up? And then again, that comes down to, like Rade said like earlier, comes down to your training sessions, but it comes down to your preseason work as a goalkeeper. What was your baseline? What was your foundation prior to the season happening? How good a shape were you so that you were almost hitting your second win during season, so your body has already been through a preseason prior to this? So I think that's even more important, the discussion of in-season recovery, but also to preseason, what was your workouts like?
I didn't even think about this part. And you guys, this is what I love about this show is like, I swear, I feel like I learn every single episode I do from Omar and the guests and Saskia and everything like that. Or even just myself, by actually talking something out. I'm going to give myself some credit right there. Is that I never even thought about from a tendency standpoint. We need to recognize what our goalkeepers are doing in the game from a physical standpoint.
100%.
Because that's going to determine what we do throughout the week. If they were hitting the ground all Sunday, we're not doing through balls on Monday. Just plain and simple. And I think that's something that it didn't even dawn on me until now. So thank you guys. Thank you guys for bringing that out. I'm sure the sports science department is pretty heavily involved with you guys, Rade, in regards to what you should do with your goalkeepers and what you shouldn't, right?
Yes. And at the same time, there is that time and a place where there is a days where we got to get stuff done. And there is a times where sports science plays a huge role. And there is a times where it's just like, hey, we got to get this in, we got to get this done, or this is what needs to be done. And we just got to go through it. Again, going back to one thing that Omar said, that's really important. I think preseason is massive. I agree. But entire lifestyle on a senior, when you come to senior team, when you come to the professional level, it becomes the lifestyle. And, again, going back to being really fortunate, wherever I've been, and even in the college level, I've been really, really fortunate that I had some really, really disciplined players, like some really disciplined goalkeepers where fitness were not an issues. But this Chicago Red Stars experience and, working with the players that were getting ready for the World Cup and stuff like that, it was just a different level and completely different mindset in terms of like just open my eyes in terms of their physical preparation and their abilities to take a load in and take a just a different level sessions day in and day out, and keep that intensity throughout the week or throughout the period of time. It's just a massive, and comes in, like a lot of us are saying like, hey, goalkeepers don't have to run as much. They don't have to be super fit. It's actually completely opposite. They have to be ultra fit. Now how they run the miles, that's what's important. Like, you can all be a track runner and just get out there and run miles and miles and miles, but do something with the speed, with the change of pace, with the change of direction, stuff like that. And I also think, we always talk about technical, tactical, psychological, social, physical side of the game. Like, I think, how do you play with those parts in your sessions? I think it's a massive, we are, again, really fortunate where our culture is really good, where our players are pretty fit, they're ready to go almost all the time. I do think, and this is something in a youth game, I think it's really important. I don't think with some clubs train 2 times a week, some clubs train 3 times a week in a game. I don't think you can overtrain in a young age here. I think we can put in a little bit more into goalkeepers. I think they can do a little bit more work so they are ready down the road when they hit the college, when they hit twice. I like, a lot of people talk about high school games, and I think high school soccer is massive preparation for the college game, where you play 2 or 3 or 4 games a week. Now, how do you manage the players in between? I think it's really important. But going back to the goalkeeping, we are almost like a inverted curve, so to say, because our Sunday and our game day is not as high of a level load. We're almost like a football players. Football players train harder than what they play, and they train longer when they play, and like, it's almost like inverted curve. And going back to sports science, like, I do think it's really important to understand it. But at the same time, and I really do think it's important, we incorporate it really, really heavy, but it's more about going back to education and kind of educating your goalkeeper. Okay, are you, a lot of players say, I'm sore. Yeah, you'll be sore for the rest of your career. That's just part of it. Are you hurt? Do you hurt? Or are you just physically tired? And where's that point where it's like player understanding their body and knowing what is going on, where it's like, all right, I need a break, or okay, I can just keep on going, and there is a moment, as I said, there is a moment where job needs to be done, and job needs to be just, we have to get through this. And, I think that's where that trust between the coach and relationship between the coach and the player, I think, comes in play, and just kind of that understanding, right?
Yeah, I think that, I think we've really hit a lot of fascinating, bullet points for a lot of people to hear out there. And I think, if I was somebody who's listening to the show right now, I would go back and hear what we had to speak about in regards to the tendencies, the positivities, the statistics, and reading behind the statistics, and recognizing the demands of what your goalkeeper is going through, and obviously what they're actually physically doing. I think that kind of nails everything that we wanted to talk about in today's episode. Before we go, Omar, is there anything else you want to add on to this before we kind of wrap this whole thing up?
No, I think, again, for any young goalkeeper and any young goalkeeper coach out there, just understanding that a lot of this stuff is, through experience. Like, I'm speaking from my experience, from my recruiting stuff, from, sitting in those classrooms with our head coach and listening to them talk about their statistics and understanding how I can apply that to my goalkeeper. So always leaving yourself open to, applying new information that you're gathering. And even if you're not gathering that information because you're in the environment, go construct that environment for yourself. Go online, go and maybe even look up, college Division I, where our goal scored. Maybe someone tweeted about it. There's a lot of young people who are, doing statistics for the SEC or the Big West where I played. And you can maybe see their own heat maps, and then from there understand how you can apply that to your young goalkeepers. And the more well-equipped you are with statistics and almost substance-based stuff, if someone ever challenged you, you're just going to say, look, like, I'm doing my research about what the trends are for your age group and what the games are demanding from you. And this is why I'm doing this. And if they say, oh, really? Like, show me. And then you show them. And now maybe you've opened something in their mind to conceptualize the position in a different way. So, you know what I mean? So it's just important to construct the environments that even if they're not present for you, there's enough information online to go do it. And once you do that, I think your sessions and you as an educated coach, it's just going to be a different level.
Yeah. No, I think you're absolutely correct like that. Rade, as we wrap up this episode right here, first off, thanks for taking, almost an hour and a half
Oh, no problem.
of your time. And by the way, what is that background behind you right there?
I think, yeah, this is the July 21st, Red Stars, North Carolina.
Okay.
At the stadium. Yeah, I think it was sold out crowd. I think like it was 18,000 people. Pretty cool atmosphere. Yeah.
That's awesome, man. That looks pretty cool.
Yeah.
I would keep that as my screenshot all the time.
Yeah. I gave you an option. You said to keep it this one. I gave you.
well, or you could go with Omar's, which is you striking the balls into the stands. So if there's any goalkeeper coaches out there, who are looking for advice, I think one of the really great things that we find every time on the show is that professional high-level goalkeeper coaches like yourself are really accessible to younger goalkeeper coaches because you've been where they've been before, whether they're starting to coach at the college level or they're coaching at the youth level. So where's the best place for people to reach out to you?
Yeah, Twitter, Instagram, whatever works. If like they can reach out to you and they can get my email anytime. I try to be, and I say this all the time. If you're in Chicago or if you're in Passon or something like that, if you're somewhere where we're playing game, like we're wide open. There's days where we don't let people in, come and watch sessions, but we're wide open. I would love to talk to anybody, and I'm open to share anything that I have. There is certain things that I can't, just because of simple, privacy stuff. But other than that, like just open to share any advice, anything that I can help. And, I don't think I'm far from believe that I know it all. I stole a lot of things from a lot of people and try to incorporate in my own environments wherever I've been, and just kind of see how can work in my own environment. And I think that's the key. Like, how can you take bits and pieces and just to learn and grow and make it as best as you can for the players that you are working with. And thank you so much, guys, for having me. I really, really appreciate it. And again, if anybody needs anything, just please feel free to reach out.
Dude, of course, man. And guys, if you want to reach out to Omar Zeenni at ProGK Academy _ on Instagram, he's got a bunch of YouTube videos in the works that are going to be coming out very soon. He's got some great podcasts coming out with some great guests in the future very soon. If you want to reach out to us, contact at Inside the 18. That's the number 18media.com for a guest suggestion or topic suggestion, or at Goalkeeper Podcast on all social media platforms. Before we go, just want to give a quick shout out to everybody who had reached out in regards to the content that we've done this past week regarding, our stance on the current climate out there in the world, and how much, we really, really appreciate and value the fact that people, were cool with us, and I don't want to say cool in a way as in like it was okay, but more as in like, that we're on board with us and our stance in regards to global unity and equality for everyone. And that's the great thing about the goalkeeping union, regardless of what group you belong to. You're a member of the goalkeeping union if you're a goalkeeper, and if you're a member of the human race, we're all one. So, Omar, I know you're yourself. I know Saskia. I know myself. We're trying to better ourselves every day, and we're trying to keep educating ourselves and keep growing and keep helping the world as best we can. And Omar, I also want to give a shout out to you for your presence yesterday at some of the rallies.
Protests, it was great, man. You really get to gain some perspective on just the kind of people that go out there, and I think again it's a humanity issue, and I think it's deeply rooted, and we know racism is something that we don't condone, and even we say no to racism and all the billboards you see at FIFA games and stuff. So it's just, I think we're all on board with that, and if you're not on that, go to the protests or even go to the marches and just meet some of the people that are there, and you'll hear some of their stories. And I heard some stories yesterday from people, and they just kind of broke your heart to watch. I saw a mom with two of her kids and walking around, and it was like, do my sons matter? And I think it was just such a profound statement. And until you're there and you really feel it, then you just go, wow, okay, there needs to be some change. I felt that prior to going to it, but it really, it was just heartbreaking. So yeah, I think it's important to go and educate yourself.
Yeah. All right, guys, on that We'll end it on a positive note here. So thank you, Rade, for coming on the show. Thank you for everything that NWSL is doing in regards to inclusion and representation in the game of football out there. That's all the time on Inside the 18. We are out. Later, guys.